Okay, hello. This is the first reaction video, or my reflection, for HR management, and the topic is over modern day discrimination, which is done by a woman by the name of Mickey, and I'm not going to try to say her last name because I will definitely mess it up. So she starts it off by saying that she went to Texas A&M and that she is a feminist. So she already is certain trying to disprove the point that just because she has a title that she falls under these categories, like so many people try and discriminate against. And then the first example she starts off with is with one of her friends or colleagues. They're both by the name of Wilson, which during the speech she says she doesn't have a car until she is 25 years old, which is obviously a little bit higher than usual, but Wilson offers to give her a ride home, which she accepts, but when Wilson's going to get gas, what he does is he locks the doors, which it's a little bit strange to her. So she asks him, "Hey, why did you lock the doors? Like, there's no one that's gonna come and try and steal the car or something. We're just getting gas." And his answer is along the lines of, "I want to make sure that no one comes and gets you, and I'm not sure if you're strong enough to fend anyone off if someone does come." And that's when she first realizes, okay, there is a lot of discrimination and a little behind the scenes judging that people tend to do. They just do it indirectly instead of directly. So her number one tip of advice before she gets into the two types of discrimination is to try to unravel what's behind the smile and try and figure out what people are thinking inside the minds and not go off of looks and appearances. It's all about what's beneath here rather than what's shown to you. It's like the saying, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. You should always give people a chance beforehand, and you should try and figure out people's inner beliefs, feelings, motives, all that. So the first type she gets into of discrimination is called interpersonal, which is all about you. It's all about, like, a manager, for example, being rude to you, which can make you question, oh my gosh, like, did I do something wrong? Is it on them? Is it on me? Did he know that I have this secret? Did I mess up? Or is it just, we're not meant to be? We're not meant to get along. I'm not meant to have this job. So the example that she talks about in here is one that's called Gay and Proud and Texas and Proud example. And basically, it was an experiment where two groups were randomly given hats. They don't know what hats they have. This was taken in the state of California, I think, and California and Texas, I think, were the two states. So people didn't know what caps they were given, and they had to walk into a workplace wearing their hat, which was selected at random. And keep in mind, they still don't know what they're wearing. And what they found was that in different situations, different people received different feedbacks, different lengths of conversation, different comments, and overall different results, just simply because of something they're wearing, which may or may not be true depending on the person, which is really scary to think about for me, because I think, like, you should think about the qualities that a person has and what they're like, not one thing they say, not one thing they do, because everyone makes mistakes. We're all human. To follow up, to further prove her point, to give a second example, she gives an example called Whitney, which was based off of a pretty specific trait, which was her weight, which she showed pictures of a heavy Whitney and a normal appearance looking Whitney, which, if you haven't figured it out, the heavy one and the normal one got different results, which is discriminatory, because In a manager's head, I guess with HR or with any form of business, inside their mind they have set standards that someone needs to have or be close to, and if they don't fall into certain categories, certain, I'll say, traits, certain things that they exhibit, if they don't fall into these, then they're automatically cut off, which sometimes can even apparently be for just no apparent reason at all, which is really strange. And I don't really think that's okay, just to cut someone off simply because they don't fit your description for the job. Like, anyone can do any job if they put their mind to it. They just have to be willing to put the hard work in, and not everyone's on the same starting foot as everybody else. Just because someone lacks in knowledge, for example, doesn't mean they can't catch up to someone. They just have to work harder. They're not just automatically not meant for the job. So the second type she gets into is called subtle discrimination, which, from what I gathered, is basically telling someone you're not allowed to work, for example, for a X company or organization just because you're in class X. Like, just because you fall under a certain ethnicity, nationality, race, religion, which is a little bit worse than interpersonal, because then it's going, with interpersonal, you can say, oh, someone could just have the wrong intake, the wrong opinion at first. They could just have a really bad first impression. But this one, it's like, that's who you are, and they're discriminating against that. They're making fun of you. And the advice that she gives to get away from it is to try not to fall under these under stereotypes that certain people tend to fall under. But don't go against who you are either. You should be who you are, and if someone can't really respect that, you should just avoid it altogether, or you should confront it and do something about it, like say something instead of being quiet. Otherwise, nothing really gets done. So, interpersonal and subtle, both really not acceptable discriminations. They're almost the same thing. They're just two different terms. For me, at least, that was what I gathered from the video. And her tips of advice, her top two. So obviously, like I stated before, you need to get away from these people that are doing this, and get away from the stereotypes. Like, don't do things that'll make people put you under a certain class automatically. You should try and be different, make an effort, which then goes on to accepting responsibility. Like, hey, I'm like this, this is happening, but something needs to be done. And then finally, you should, as hard as this is, you should take action. Like, if you're in an organization, for example, you should make like a zero tolerance rule, which I completely agree with. Like, there shouldn't be discrimination going on. It's hard for me to even comprehend that it's still happening, but unfortunately it still is. But overall, she makes some really good points. She brings up some things that I think a lot of people are scared to take responsibility for, scared to even acknowledge, but nothing gets done until someone says anything or someone does something to make a difference.